Motorcycle Accident Lawsuit Guide. In 2019, about 84,000 motorcyclists have been injured and 5,014 had been killed in collisions. In accordance to the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, when a crash occurs, a motorbike accident lawsuit can end result if accident victims should go to court docket to gain full compensation for the losses that occurred. It's vital for motorcyclists and different drivers on the street to recognize who is accountable after a bike accident and what kinds of troubles occur in motorbike accident lawsuits. This information affords perception into the laws that follow after a crash occurs. Determining legal responsibility for a motorcycle accident. Every driver on the avenue has a responsibility of care to different motorists, including motorbike riders. When a collision occurs, it's vital to decide if any motorist violated their obligation of care by failing to obey the regulations of the street or working their automobile in a hazardous manner. If a driver fails to fulfill their criminal responsibilities, they are regarded negligent in the eyes of the law. In most states, a negligent driver needs to compensate accident victims for medical costs, lost wages, pain and suffering, emotional distress, property damage. Insurance businesses normally attempt to decide who is accountable for inflicting an accident. The insurance plan employer of the at-fault driver will regularly provide a lump sum price to a crash sufferer to settle the case. If the insurers can't agree on who was once at fault or if the sufferer believes the compensation provided is too low, a motorbike accident lawsuit can result. Who's at fault for a motorcycle accident? Typically, one or greater drivers concerned in an accident are regarded to be at fault. However, there are instances when a non-driver is to blame. This may want to include the producer of a bike if a defect in the motorbike precipitated the accident to take place or resulted in worse injuries. The events accountable for designing and preserving roads if a defect in the roads induced the crash to occur. If the concerned events don't agree on who is at fault and a motorbike accident lawsuit results, a chooser jury will decide who is to blame and how a whole lot compensation is appropriate. When a case goes to court, it's the victim's accountability to show who is at fault. Legal grounds for filing a motorcycle accident lawsuit. A sufferer of a bike accident has criminal grounds for submitting a declare for compensation if they can show any individual else was once accountable for the crash that brought on them harm. This can suggest displaying every other driver was speeding, wasn't paying interest to the road, failed to yield the right-of-way, was using whilst intoxicated or distracted, was riding recklessly, failed to obey the policies of the road, and HTSA information shows that 1/3 of multi-vehicle motorbike crashes end result from different drivers turning into the motorcycle's path. Whatever the circumstances, in the end accident victims will be profitable in a motorbike accident lawsuit solely if they have proof displaying that every other motorist violated the responsibility of care and a crash took place as a direct end result of that failure. Settlement factors in a motorcycle accident lawsuit. Although accident victims can file a motorbike accident lawsuit, many instances settle backyard of court. Agreement happens when an accident sufferer accepts and provides of compensation from an insurer and concurs now not to pursue any extra claims in change for the payment. Many elements have an effect on the quantity of agreement, including the extent of the accident damage, the severity of any injuries, the coverage limits of the accountable driver's insurance, whether fault in the crash used to be clear, whether the events worried in the accident shared duty for the crash or one driver used to be definitely to blame. In instances the place each drivers have been partly responsible, some states bar victims from pursuing a declare at all. These states have contributory negligence guidelines that forestall victims from acquiring compensation if they have been even 1% accountable for a crash. Other states have comparative negligence policies that permit accident victims to get better partial compensation even if they share fault. Depending on nearby rules, victims may want to pursue a declare if they're up to 50% or 51% accountable for a crash in modified comparative negligence states. Or they may want to pursue a declare even if they have been mainly accountable for the crash in pure comparative negligence states. When comparative negligence applies, a victim's damages are decreased primarily based on their personal stage of responsibility. A driver who used to be 10% accountable for the crash could, for example, obtain compensation protecting 90% of losses.